yes, I am Denise Carline, and I am the proud superintendent of the school district of Lehigh County, and just want to recognize our board member, Armor Persons. He's one our chairman this year. He has absolutely been a mentor to me, and we just really appreciate all of his support as I journey back into this role. So just by way of background, I know is there a clicker somewhere? Uh-oh.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, no worries. Yep. Got it somewhere. We can do that. Or they can do it at the end. Yeah, we'll just leave them on the side that way they take it. Okay, so just by way, we're not gonna look at this mug for more than 30 seconds, but basically 32 years in public education right here in the school district of Lehigh County. I was a teacher many years ago. Went back to school, got my master's degree, became an assistant principal, a principal, then eventually became a district leader at the central office. Finished my career after 32 years in education right here in Lehigh County as the chief of staff, and then I was chief of government relations and communications. And then decided that was it. That's it. We have two boys, and at the time they were both in college. One was in law school in the Midwest. The other one was in his undergrad in the Midwest. And really what kind of pushed me to retire was, you all remember we had these hurricanes that kind of had come through, and we had seen our youngest son play one tennis match during his sophomore year. And I remember sitting at that last match of the year and thinking, you know what? I have given my heart and soul 32 years to our students. It's probably time that I start pouring into our boys. And so had the opportunity when I retired in June of 23, the following fall into the spring, I got to see our son play tennis 9 times, which was fantastic. I would say to my husband, good luck today. Make sure you make some dinner for yourself. I'm going on a plane and going to see our son. Sometimes I think there was cereal for dinner. I'm pretty sure of it, and maybe some toast. But having said that, it was the best year really ever. And we really made a decision for our family first. During that time, the position had become an elected position. And if you and I had talked about that 5 years ago, that I would be standing here as the superintendent of schools, you and I would have had a good chuckle. That was absolutely not in the cards. It just wasn't. With the encouragement, like he said, I've been here, living here for well over 50 years in Lehigh County, with the encouragement of some leaders and others that mentored me along the way. I decided to throw my name in the hat as superintendent, and I'm proud to say, and very blessed to say, that over 68% of the Lehigh County voters put me into office, and it's just been a tremendous blessing. So that happened in 2024 in November, and here I am 15 months later. So just very proud to serve you in this capacity. Here's our district mission and vision. You've probably seen it a million times. Talk a little bit about our school system. So we know, gosh, I can tell you from living here since 1968, that our county has grown tremendously, and we see the traffic every day. I remember a time where like the Edison Mall was the edge of town. You didn't dare go much past that. There was dirt roads down Daniels. I mean, there were so many areas in our county that were just not developed, and yet here we are. I'm driving out here to Lehigh Acres tonight, and it is amazing the growth that has occurred over these years. So when we think about our county's population, that's actually an outdated number. It's well over $850,000 dollars, right? 850,000 people. We are the second largest employer in Lehigh County, right after Lehigh Health. We have just shy of 13,000 employees, and of course, well over 103,000 students, 118 schools, including 21 charters. These were the priorities that I ran on when I ran for about a year and a half as a candidate. And that #1 slot probably doesn't surprise you. My #1 job, our #1 job in the school district of Lehigh County is to ensure safe and secure schools. And some people look at me and they say, gosh, Denise, you're an educator. You're an educator. Why wouldn't increased student achievement be your first one? So here's what I'm here to tell you. Having been in school for 22 years, children don't learn if they don't feel what? So that's why it's in the top slot. After the top slot, you can interchange any of those. They're in no particular order, but those are the priorities that I ran on. So let's talk a little bit about each one of those. So we know safe and secure schools is my top priority. And so there's a couple of things we talk about. We talk about physical safety through the installation of Open Gate, which is a weapons detection system. And I get questions when I go out and speak in the community, like, gosh, Denise, do you guys have like, you know, like I go through like TSA at the airport, are they like x-ray machines? What are they? No, they're weapons detection systems. So if somebody tries to come on one of our campuses with a revolver, with some type of firearm, this is going to go off and it's going to show us the location of that particular firearm or weapon. So we're very fortunate to have that. And why is that important? You may have read in the news a couple of weeks ago, we had a dad that decided it was a good idea to put his revolver into his 5-year-old's backpack. Why? Who knows, right? Who knows? And I'm sure that gentleman regrets that decision at this point, no question about it. However, here comes the 5-year-old through one of our elementary schools, walks through Open Gate. He has no earthly idea he has a revolver in his backpack. No idea at all. Open Gate goes off. Staff come over. Honey, do you have something in your backpack you'd like to tell us about? He answered, no, I don't have anything. They opened up the backpack and surprise, look what they found. Had we not had Open Gate, what could have happened with that 5-year-old? I know, I was in schools for over 22 years. That would have gone into a kindergarten class. He probably would have unpacked his little backpack and went, oh. And hopefully this wouldn't happen, but I know little boys, I raised 2 of them, come see me. Oh my gosh, what is that? Could you imagine the potential tragedy? Little kids are curious. They don't know, sometimes toys versus real guns. Thank goodness we had Open Gate in our schools. School resource officers, guardians, all part of our safety plan. And I'm going to tell you some other things that we do that are not listed on the slide. Mental health. We have licensed mental health professionals, we have counselors, we have other folks that are able to provide some of that support or referring out to our community for that, because mental health is a huge issue for us, not just in our community, or remember, schools are microcosms of our community. So we do have children that have some needs for mental health, and we certainly work hard to provide those. Here's another piece you may have read about. Bus patrol. About a year or so ago, I was at a conference, walking by, and you've all been to different conferences, you see these cool things that are out there, and I looked and I went, wow, that's interesting. So we had a conversation and it goes like this. Hi, we're bus patrol. What do you do? I'm thinking patrols, right? Those of you that are educators, like we're gonna give a little strap to a kid, they're gonna go out and like tell the kids to walk in line or don't run on campus. Like, what is it? And they showed us. And it was a camera system that they put on the buses. And they said it only exists on these buses to show that there are some people in your community that might not be stopping for your buses when that alarm goes out and when the lights go off. I said, that could never happen in Lee County. Never.
Well, you don't really know.
Then I came back and I'm sitting literally one day on Colonial, talking to our deputy superintendent, the big bus, can't miss it, the big yellow color, there go the lights, here comes the stop arm. I stopped, and that's a multi-lane road. So what happened? 3 cars zoomed past me on my left-hand side. And when I tell you they were going fast, it was like the speed of light. And all I saw were 3 of our little kids get off the bus. And I thought, oh my gosh, it does happen in Lee County. Since we've installed the cameras on our 600+ bus fleet, look at the number of citations in December and January. In February, we're well over 10,000 citations. We've run some ads on social media. The sheriff has been talking about it. Our other law enforcement partners have been talking about it. When you see a bus, please, and it stops, please stop. There was one frightening video on social media that I almost became physically sick when I saw it. One of our children was getting off the bus and a community member did something, went around the child. It was captured on our video on one of the buses. I held my breath. I thought, oh my gosh, and it was a little one. I thought, wow, how busy could we possibly be not to stop when a bus lights up and when the alarm goes out? It only takes a minute. So please really help us. This is a major campaign going on for us right now. The good news on this is we're hearing once people get they get the citation, and it's pretty costly. It's about $225. Once people get cited, 90% of the offenders do not reoffend. So that's the really good news. While this looks heavy in the first rollout, we don't expect those numbers to continue. And I will fight for the safety of our children every single day. Another thing, when I first was sworn into office, there were a couple of situations. One of them was relative to our buses, and our buses are not perfect. I mean, when we have an accident, we sit in the traffic just like you do. When there's a traffic slowdown, 5 o'clock comes, we sit in that traffic just like y'all do. There are things that happen, but it was absolutely unacceptable to me in terms of the number of students that were late to school every day because of our inefficient transportation system. Now that's a different problem. You're doing everything you can and there's an accident. You're doing everything you can and there's heavy traffic. Well, that's kind of light. Sometimes I have to sit in traffic too. But when it's an inefficient routing system, we have to do something different. So when I was sworn in, I asked, what are the number of students, how many students are late to school every day because of our bus system? You ready? 8,000 children. Well, that didn't sit too well with me. And I thought, well, just out of curiosity, how many children are on average picked up late from school every day in the afternoon, right? 16,000 children. I said 24,000 children on average are late to school, which means they're missing first period, by the way, a good portion of it with the little guys. Usually that's reading, not always, sometimes it's math. But in the afternoon, 16,000? A quarter of our students are adversely impacted by our inefficient transportation system. No, that has to change. So I went to our deputy superintendent, our director of transportation, some other folks, and I said, get in a room together, please. Let's figure it out. And I kind of teased him. I said, you know, when the Pope was elected, there's the white smoke that comes out. I said, don't come out till I see the white smoke. Well, it took them a couple days, actually a week or so. They came up with a good solution. And so I'm going to show you in a few minutes what we've been able to do in terms of our more on-time arrivals. Not perfect yet. Been in office for 15 months, but we're making good strides. But here's the reason. Children have to be in class. They absolutely have to be there. It is a must do. It is a must. Here are the statistics. Here's what it looks like. So the box or the part of the graph that's in blue was 2024 when I first got into office. 2025 is where we are now. So look at the morning transportation. Last year, 83%, this year, 98%, and that's with an increased ridership on our buses. Is it 100%? No, it's not. We won't rest until it's 100%, but I sure as heck like 98% on time arrival, a lot better than 83%, okay? That's the morning time, and if you see the caveat there, I said buses are on time when they arrive 30 minutes before the last bill. You gotta be there, okay? And then in the afternoon, 76 to 85, not 100%, not, but it's gonna get better. Continue to work on that. Increasing student achievement. If you take a look at the another right-hand side, or right-hand side of the screen, this graph right here, what do you notice? From 2010 to 11, all the way down. You notice the slope goes down. Well, that is where we rank as a school district. When you look at the top 10 largest school districts in Florida, we're tied for number 9. I played sports. I don't like to come in 9th. There's no prize for that. Not good news. Not good news. I'm slightly competitive. I want to be first, okay? I want our kids to be first. So when we look at our academic achievement, we are tied for number 9 out of 10 of the largest school districts in Florida. That's in reading, writing, math, science, and social studies across the board. Not the place to be. We are working our way to become an A school district, and there are ways we can do it. We're going to talk more about that. At the heart of everything is the teacher. I've said this once, and Angela knows, she's listened to me in cabinet say it more than one time. Of all the things we do as a school district, there are 2 things that if I was a betting woman, I put my money on red every single time. 1, high quality teacher in every classroom. When I was sworn in, we had well over 200 teacher vacancies in November. When does school start? August. In November, it's actually the end of November, over 200 teacher vacancies. So I met with our team, our executive team, we call it our cabinet, and I said, we're going to 0. And I think our chief human resource officer about fell off her chair, and she said, ma'am, and I said, 0. She said, Dr. Carline, there's a national teacher shortage. I said, I know that. Lee County's better than that. We didn't get there right away. Had to bring a new team member in who believed. She started Project Believe. She said, we will get there. And within the next 2 months, we got that number down to 17, from 230 to 17 within a handful of months. Okay, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And you know where many of our schools were that didn't have enough teachers? Right here in Lehigh Acres. That's not okay. I'm not the superintendent of Cape Coral. I'm not just the superintendent of Fort Myers. I'm not just the superintendent of Sanibel or Captiva. I'm the superintendent of the Lee County Public School System. And every corner of this community counts. So when we have an area where we don't have 13 teachers, 17 teachers, 20 teachers, that is completely unacceptable. That's why I said we're going to 0. Now, that story's not over. Fast forward a couple months after we got it down to 17 teachers, we were going into the summer. But we didn't have much time in office. We were trying to put some things into place. The new CHRO, the new chief of human resource, came in one day and said, Denise, sit down. She knew I was going to blow it. I was going to blow my top. She said, okay, we have 575 teacher vacancies going into the next school year. Couldn't believe it. But well, you know, all we're going to be able to do is do what we can do. She said, you know what, we're going to hard charge the work. We're going to take it on. We are going to do everything we can possibly do. I'm going to go forward for a minute. So that 575 teacher vacancies, we got down to 37 on the first day of school. And I said, I don't want substitute teachers in those classrooms. I love our substitute teachers. We call them guest teachers. I love them. But I need a certified teacher. So I'm a certified teacher, taught for many years in schools, 22 years. I want somebody in there that's a reading coach, math coach, somebody that's going to be in there that's going to take a lesson plan and make it happen. Okay, so 37 on the first day of school. We followed that 575 baseline cohort all the way through. We filled the last vacancy in January. Project Believe is what our human resource officer called it. And it was a partnership between her division, our school principals, our regional associate superintendents, and lots of other folks that helped to erase that big deficit. Now, when we go back, we look at instructional vacancies. Those are teacher vacancies, and we do it month by month, okay? So remember, that number was approaching 575 back in April, okay, which gave me heartburn. But each month, as we started to come back, we started to notice. So the blue bars are where we were this time in 2024. The green line is this school year. So when you look month by month, August, September, October, November, December, January, and we have our data through February 5th up there. Which bars do you like best when you look at the number of teacher vacancies? Do you like the blue or the green?
Green.
Okay, is green 0? No. But I'll take those numbers every day of the week and on Sunday. Twice on Sunday, if we can have those numbers. But I will not rest until we get those to 0. That's our goal. Go back for a minute. I want to talk about something else that our board did, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal. And it was well before the law was passed. Our board came to me and said, you know, Denise, these cell phones, they're wonderful to make calls, but they're not wonderful to cyberbully and to hop on social media and to cause distraction during the school day. They're not okay. We'd like those to go in the backpacks, off, bell to bell. I said, you got it. Absolutely. By the way, our employers are telling us that our kids, or their workers can't get their head out of the phone. They're texting all the time, calling, they're not paying attention. They don't know how to have that conversation. So we're figuring out the phone's going away, and guess what we find now? When you go in cafeterias, children are talking. Oh my gosh, they're talking. How awesome is that? Right? How awesome is that? So that's a really big deal, and I want to thank Armor and his team for making that happen for us. We also revised the code of conduct. We're not talking about, I'm gonna say this in the nicest way I can. We want children to come to school every day and to have a very safe and a welcoming and a warm environment. But we are tired of our few kids, and there's a handful at several of our schools that come to school for the distinct pleasure of disrupting the school. Those days are over. OVER. We are not putting up with them. We have a place for you, and if you can't function at that alternative center, then I have a new place for you. It's called virtual learning. But you are not going to come into our schools and disrupt our learning environment for the majority of our kids. Our children deserve better, don't you think? Teacher recruitment and retention, we already talked a lot about that. It's not just good enough to get children or to get teachers in the door. You got to keep them. So last year, I did some doging at the district office. We took 5% out of every single department, and that might not sound a lot, like a lot of money, almost $16 million. People look at that, oh, that's the Taj Mahal, there's all these people down there. Well, there's not as many people this year. 5% out. That allowed us to pair that with a reorganization to the tune of about $1 million, where some people were demoted, and then we had some people that just left. We had to cut some of the fat out of what I call the bureaucracy at the district office. So between our savings and the previous superintendent, Ken Savage, he was an interim superintendent. He had done about $3 million. Between the two of us last year, we saved $20 million in the school district. Guess what we did with a lot of that money? Put it into teacher pay, okay? And our teacher pay is nothing to write home about. It's just not. When I got into office, it was $50,500 for starting teacher pay. We were able to negotiate with the union, put some money on the table. By the way, that money doesn't just appear. The union doesn't just show up and say, here, Denise, here's $20 million. You put that out with teachers. They don't do any of that. That's our job. Our job is to come up with the savings and the dollars. Their job is to partner with our negotiations team and come up with a way to spend those dollars, okay? So we put some money on the table. We had some money already earmarked for it. We were able to give teachers the largest percentage raise in the state of Florida. And I know this because I talked to my 66 other colleagues from my professional organization. And here's what they told me. Denise, I gave them what we got. We got a 0.05% for teacher raises or a 1% raise. I said, that's not good enough. We are behind in this county with our teacher salaries. We have to do better than that. So we added 9 minutes to their day. We were able to give a 7% raise on average. Not every single person, they spread it out through the continuum because you got brand new teachers all the way to a teacher who's taught for 48 years. So, but the 7% was spread throughout with a big focus on teachers that were years 6 to 15. That was our big focus, okay, because that's where we tend to lose teachers. So again, not where I put it, it's where the negotiation team is, the district and the union working together. So we were very proud of that. This year, my goal is to try to get the beginning teacher pay back up. And also we are looking for additional dollars to do that so we can give that raise through the salary schedule. So we are focused on getting more money in our schools, paying our teachers, and we will not rest until we do that. That helps with student achievement. Talked about that. Teacher recruitment and retention, here's what I heard on the campaign trail. Children's behavior out of control. Not everyone. So many kids that come to school that do the right thing every day, but we have to take care of the ones that misbehave. Here's a look at our notices to appear, our arrests and civil citations from 604 to 366 last year, and we're gonna go even further down this year. Expanding technical education opportunities. Not every child has to go to college. We are hearing this all throughout the nation, right? We have children in the trades that are going to tech school, tech college, coming out of our schools with certifications, out of our high school, if you haven't heard about it. These kids are technology geniuses. They come out of that school, we're hiring them in our district, and they're making a pretty good salary, much bigger than my salary as a teacher ever. So we want to be able to continue to support that work. Empowering parents as partners, super important. We want to get out in the community. This is part of it. Armor and I go out and speak in the community, and we had a town hall last night in Fort Myers with one of our board members. We also have a parent task force. Fiscal responsibility, where we talked about that, where we saved the $20 million. We passed a budget this year, which was a decrease of over $114 million less. And then our legislative advocacy, this will be the last thing I'll talk with you about. When Armor and Sam Fisher and Jada Langford Fleming came on the board, right before they came on the board, we had difficulty being able to work with our legislators. Some of them wouldn't speak to us. There were some board members that had called legislators out on the dais and said things like that were not actually like loving and kind and wonderful. So some of them decided to take their ball and go home. They just did. And we struggled. We absolutely struggled. This past year, we got $2.9 million from our state legislature to help with some of those safety and hardening pieces that I talked to you about, like Open Gate and some of those other things we're putting into place that we don't talk about publicly because they're too sensitive in terms of our safety measures. We've also been able to change some laws. I know Armor went up there and was a strong advocate. Do you know that social workers used to have a teaching degree? Do you know that? I never had my social worker ever teach anything. I needed that person to go out to school, to the house and try to help us. But I never asked her to teach a class, but yet there was an antiquated law in our books that said that person had to pass a teacher certification test. That didn't make sense to me. Well, Armor was a big part of that. He went out there with us and said, that doesn't make sense. They overturned that law. There's lots of things that are happening. The other piece, going back to teacher salaries, is when I knew there were pockets of our town where we did not have enough teachers, I looked with our staff. We found a law that said we could go outside of collective bargaining to pay our teachers that taught in our schools where children struggle the most. We could pay them up to $9,000 more. I did not have to work with the union on that. The law was very specific, and big kudos to our legislative delegation and others that passed that law about 3 or 4 years ago. But it said if I declared an educational emergency and brought it to the board, they could pass a resolution giving authorization for me to pay up to $9,000 more for our teachers. Those that teach in those core content areas, reading, writing, math, science, social studies. Very proud of that because in addition to our teacher raises, many of our teachers in the schools that struggle can earn up to $9,000 more. We're very proud of that. So that's a big deal. Those people up on the screen get tremendous kudos for that. They've been a big part of that. So as I wrap up tonight, I have some homework because every teacher has homework, right? Every teacher has homework. Would you do me a favor and please take out your cell phones and we're going to invite, this is the audience participation part, okay? So he, I was going to say, these are in his backpack turned off, right? But if you could please scan that. We cannot go on this journey to an A by ourselves. We want to be an A-rated district, but we need you. So here's what I invite you to do. Once you take a picture of that QR code, could you please do me a favor? And check one of those boxes. If you can read with a child, we'd love to have you. If you can mentor a child, we'd love to have you. If you call up Deb Noss and you say, hey, I have an hour a week, we have 30 minutes a week. She'll find a little one for you to read with, do some flashcards with, help them with their math facts. Our children need our community to step up. So if you have even 30 minutes a week, we'll take it. If you have a job that you did, you do. Our kids are hungry. They want to know. Tell me about your profession. When I was one of 7 children, we used to sit at a table and my dad would say to the 6 girls and my brother, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And it was never allowed to be a shrug. I don't know that. I don't know. I don't know. You know how kids do? I don't know. That was not allowed with my father. You had to come to the dinner table the next time. You better be prepared to tell some things you're interested in doing. Not every child has that. I realized how very lucky I was as one of 7 children to have a very close family. And my dad, who was a tremendous influence in our lives, was 6 girls and a boy. He always told us as girls, you cannot be financially dependent on anybody. He took us to Cape Coral Bank. We had to open up a little bank account, and then he stayed on us. You gotta have a plan. You gotta have a plan. Too many of our children don't have that. They need you. They need you to come in and tell them, hey, this is what I do for a living. This is what I did for a living. Many of our kids don't even know about that. So you expose them to careers, you tell them about your experience, your story, and I promise you, our kids will really be blessed by that. So if you have the opportunity, please do that. That's it for me. I just thank you so much for letting me come out tonight and brag about our school and the things that we're doing. It is a tremendous honor to get to serve as your superintendent, and I'll turn it back over to Paul.
I would admit that it feels amazing, being called the boss five. Please, I've seen it before. Wait, just 2 questions.
Sure.
Just 2 questions. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Superintendent,
Yes.
for running on ensuring our schools are safe and secure. I'm grateful for your service to our community and for making this a priority. That's also one of the reasons I served in U.S. Army, to help keep our community safe, especially our children.
Thank you for your service.
My honor. It's my understanding, Dr. Carline, that the students have a right to protest. However, the parents still have the ultimate say over the activities that they want their children to participate in. Were the parents of all the children protested the ICE notified prior to them doing so? If not, how would the school board resolve a hypothetical of a child possibly having an accident in the process?
Good, really good question. Thank you for the question. So a couple of things, or several questions, but I want to give you a little bit of context. So if you have not heard, we did have some students that participated in a protest against ICE, against the immigration policies that currently exist. This occurred over a period of time. It was school on Wednesday, a couple more on Thursday, a couple more on Friday. The Commissioner of Education for the state of Florida had notified us that there were talks throughout the nation about potential walkouts, protests, what have you. He asked us to send the memo out to our teachers, administrators, parents, basically to our constituents, our stakeholders, which was done. That information went out. It is really fun to be in a high school and to say, you know what, like, is this going to happen today? Is it going to happen tomorrow? Is it going to happen the next day? Basically, what happened was our school administrators have safety plans in place. They know that if something happens, particularly in our high schools, this is not necessarily a major concern of elementary kids, although I taught elementary, upper elementary sometimes, they can get that in their mind too, and middle schools as well. So here's what our administrators did. They sat down with their teams and they said, hey, if this happens, we want to make sure safety is paramount. That's so important. If it happens, we had less than 4% of our students that participated, that chose to participate in what we would call protests. Some of our children said, I'm not gonna do that. Some of our children, I call them kind of nosy nibbies, they kind of put their nose down, looked around, went, yeah, I'm not doing that, that's not for me. We had a third group of children that decided to use profanity, that decided to go overboard, that decided not to stick with, maybe I'm gonna say something, I don't like ice, or I love ice, or whatever, go Brandon, whatever they say, but they walked to class, no, they didn't. They went elsewhere, but they stayed on campus. But here's the problem. The problem is that when you interrupt instructional time, when you cause a major disruption at one of our schools, what did I say before about the code of conduct? The topic is irrelevant. If you are interrupting, causing a major disruption, not listening to our staff, doing what you please, that is not part of our student code of conduct. Now, there's a landmark case, you're probably aware of it, the Tinker case. Okay, it's a Supreme Court case, 1969. There was a young lady that wore black armbands. She was protesting a war. She had a few of her friends and other people that did that. Okay, that's called a peaceful protest. Children do not lose, according to the Supreme Court, they don't lose their right of freedom of expression. They get to express how they feel. What they don't get to do, this is what people forget to read in that case, you cannot interrupt instruction. You cannot cause safety issues. So basically, in answer to your question, parents were notified by the memo from the Commissioner of Education. Principals did not know, the kids talked, there was no definitive, except we did get, somebody sent us a text that said, hey, there might be something on X day. Again, we sent it out, the principals are like, okay, let's take a look at that. Is it gonna happen? Some schools, yes, some schools, no. We give information when we get it. So here's what we've done today. What we've done today is we've got notice that there could be one coming up, okay? Now these go across the nation. We're notifying parents, review the code of conduct. Please understand, we are done playing. This is not going to happen. Oh, by the way, we have kids leave campus. That's a whole nother group. And they are being dealt with appropriately. But please understand, while they have the ability and they don't use their rights at those doors, in schoolhouse doors, we are not going to play. The code of conduct is in play, and children who push that limit are finding out the hard way. They're sitting at home, many are suspended, they're awaiting hearings where their parents will have to come in and we'll decide if they're gonna stay in the school district in Lehigh. So all of that to say, we will let parents know when we have information. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of things that go out. Commissioner's letter went out, we put parents on notice.
Thank you. Thank you. Just
Yes.
last question, please.
Yes. Okay, the Lehigh Acres area has grown so fast.
Yes, it has.
You mentioned that earlier. And, so many families feel like the growth is outpacing the plan.
Fast, yes.
Yeah, we're seeing overcrowded schools, buses, long bus rides for the students, and concerns about the safe bus stops, right? So what clear benchmarks and timelines are in place to ensure school capacity issues, transportation issues, student safety to keep up with the community's growth?
Thank you very much for the question. So 15 months on the job. So yes, absolutely. Okay. So when you get information like that, right? 15 months is not enough time to be able to put enough schools up. I mean, I like to pride myself in being competitive and being fast, but 15 months is pretty quick. So what we have, if you ever notice our capital plan, and I would encourage you to go on leeschools.net, you'll see the majority of new schools are going into the East Zone. We just talked about Dr. Rustino opening the Alva High School. There's also Green Meadow Elementary that will be opening. So we are following the capital plan, and you'll see most of the schools are in the East Zone. So that's the good news. That helps with adjusting those capacities. The second piece you asked about transportation. So we made what might be perceived as a little bit of a controversial decision, okay? We said high schools, we're going to limit really how far you can go, okay? In terms of on distance on a bus. For example, we had students at Dunbar High School that got on a bus down in Benita at 3:40 a.m. I'm a mom. I don't know that I could do that. I don't know that I could do that. Now, does child sleep on the bus? I'm sure. But that's not okay. That's not in the best interest of children. So we are now skinning up those zones. So no longer can that child, will that child next year be able to go? They'll have to make a choice closer to home. I will tell you, we have so many great high schools. Dunbar High School is absolutely fantastic, but there's a lot of other really fantastic schools too. So we're kind of shortening up the zones where children can go, and that will actually help us with the longer bus rides. Okay, so thank you for the question. Thank you so much.